All right, everybody. Today's topic, or this blog's topic, is on Cyberfunk, which is a hybrid, not hybrid, it's the black version of cyberpunk. And cyberpunk is a literary genre of science fiction which focuses on the futuristic questions of governance and government, big government, how large futuristic worlds will be governed, and the impact of technology on these future worlds, and kind of rebelling to that. But not just technology. You're talking about robots. You're talking about life extensions, something like in the movie Altered Carbon. So that's cyberpunk, and cyberfunk is the black version or the black expression of that. And one good story is the anthology The City, which is a collection of short stories in a shared universe. I happen to be a part of that, and that is a really good story setting for black, for not black, but for cyberfunk, right? And then there's other cyberfunk books that you can read. One of the first science fiction books that I read was Street Lethal by Stephen Barnes, and that is cyberfunk. But when you think about cyberpunk, there's a bunch of them. There's even a video game that kind of coined the term called Cyberpunk 2020, and then they have Cyberpunk 2077, and that's coming out. Now, today's post is, can cyberpunk really be African or black and still be part of, and keep all of the other tropes that are part of cyberpunk? Meaning, can it keep the governance, dominance, and can it keep the technology growth or technology impact threat? There's a threat by technology. Robots are going to take us over. People are going to be distorted because they can alter their life extension through technology. They will alter their bodies through augmentations. Think of the movie Repo Man. You have big corporations, oppressive government. To me, those don't sound like the futuristic speculations of an African people. Now, I'm African American, and I get that. I don't speak any African language. I studied African culture, and I'm familiar with it enough to understand that there's differences between African culture and European culture. And as an African American, I'm squeezed in between the two. So when I think of cyberfunk, I'm thinking as an African American, so I can recognize the differences, whereas maybe an African or a regular American or somebody from the West, Europe, Germany, Italy, Ireland, maybe one of those countries may not, because they don't have that hybrid experience like African Americans do. So because we have that hybrid experience, or because I have it, right, I see the difference. I don't see in African history, right, a reliance on technology as the means to advance humanity and civilization. I see a deeper spiritual exploration. It may sound corny, but there's ways to extract some drama in it. But like, I see things like, take Altered Carbon, where people just want to do anything to live longer. I don't see that being a story in the African worldview, because I would think they would embrace moving to the next life. I don't like take the story Logan's Run or The Island, where they were supposedly population controlling things by people living only to the age of 30, or I forgot what it was, in lottery system in the island, right? But in Logan's Run, they were controlling the population like that. And I think we would do it another way. And we would still be futuristic and have things done. Now, in terms of technology, the reliance on technology like robots, spaceships, and other AI, cell phones, and other things like that, I still think we would rely on the human body's ability and the mind. I think we would use our internal computer more so than we would use our physical computer or our mechanical computer, right? I just think that's where we would advance, right? We would learn how to communicate telepathically, if that's the way you want to call it, where you wouldn't even need a cell phone, right? The things that we need advanced mathematics for, we probably wouldn't need those things. So it kind of is hard for me to explain without somebody saying, well, explain this part, or I don't understand that, or just having a little puzzle look. I'm trying to explain it, but it all makes sense to me, so I don't know which parts I need to elaborate on. But I'll say, that's that part. Now, then take the government part, right? Yes, we see a lot of wicked dictatorships in Africa, and really, when we say a lot, we may know of 5 or 10 even in the post-colonial period, right? But there's 70 countries in Africa, so if you even had 10, you're not really dealing with a high percentage. So the average African country doesn't have a dictatorship, totalitarian, gangster, adversarial relationship between their civilians and their government. So I'm thinking, just based on history, because when you go into the the pre-colonial period, which is more traditional, you don't have that problem. The thing that I always use as an example in steampunk, you have a Victorian setting where you have a royal family that looks down on the civilians. They're better than everybody. And in African monarchies, they are not even equal. They're actually lower than the regular people because they have burdens to be responsible. They answer to their people. They answer to this society. So that steampunk in an African setting would be of a contrast to the steampunk key foundation blocks. So it would be challenging for that to happen. So anyway, the same thing is with cyberpunk. You have out of control corporations, you have totalitarian governments. And now, mind you, if you want to write a story of an odd African world, you can always counter it, but you would have to accept that your story would not be relative to how African societies and cultures are, and you're just doing something different, and own that. But if it was anything that was consistent with the culture and where these cultures are going, there's nothing that shows you, without colonial or external forces, but nothing organic that suggests that they would form wild corporations and bugged out governments. Now, if you want to argue that they continue to stay oppressed and never liberate themselves to their own values, and they use the colonizers' values for the rest of the future, yeah, no doubt. You can write that any way you want. You can write America in Africa if you want to, but just understand that you're not writing it within the African values. So that's what I think is the problem or the challenge. in the very foundation, the very fabric of cyberpunk and cyberfunk. Cyberfunk is challenging to really be that different than cyberpunk in a African standpoint. But I do think there's ways to tell it in Africa. I mean, if you want to say that Indie Okafors is African cyber funk, she would say it's not anything dealing with anything black. It's Nigerian cyber punk in Nigeria. And yeah, you can, but again, the other tenants aren't really there. They're just, very indigenous people with a what do you call it? A relationship to spaceships and technology that's special, and they become magical in that regard. But anyway, that's the end of this. My question still exists. It's like a discussion. This is a theory that I don't know if cyberfunk can really be a thing and be unique and be Afrofuturistic and black sci-fi. I think it'll always just be black-faced cyberpunk. Sorry. And I love it. Don't get me wrong. I'm enjoying it. But there's a lot of things that the Western world has as tenets, specifically with technology, that I don't think are in the future of African technology, just because we're that different. And the same thing goes for government, same thing goes for religion, same thing goes on how we view the body, all that stuff. All right? More later, maybe I can put this all together as a collection of ideas. But this one is one. All right. Talk to you later. Peace.